fails, then I think we will hit that more sort of drawn-out series as the control matchups just clash.
Agreed. And, Weapon Rogue is a deck with a built-in failure rate, right? Even though it can be extremely strong in matchups. We talked about this dynamic before, right? Consistent or inconsistent, kind of a misnomer. But there are some matchups where, it's as simple as if I draw the weapon, I win. If I don't draw the weapon, I lose, right? And by don't draw the weapon, we're literally talking 3 weapons, bottom 5 cards, right? In certain matchups of not being able to get there. But, it can happen. But, you do have a lot more time than you might expect to really get rolling with weapons in a lot of matchups. And this is certainly one of them. I think this is an extremely strong matchup against a priest that does not play Acidic Swamp Ooze.
Yeah, one thing to keep an eye out for if Jarla gets into a situation where his weapons are near the bottom is what he does with Silverleaf Poison. Because obviously when you're so deep into your deck, you don't want to Silverleaf Poison your weapon, even though it adds a charge, it just adds to fatigue as well in some circumstances. So that'll be interesting, but so far not so good for Jarla as there's no weapon at least available for now. And also, what I would, I guess, argue is half a weapon sometimes is actually the Secret Passage, right? Because that's a lot of the choices that players go for too. If they don't get it early, they just Secret Passage just to get a weapon equipped.
Yes. Yeah, this is one of those weird hands where right now this is the worst possible hand that Jarla could have. But if he draws a weapon, his hand is currently just the Turbo Nuts. This is the best hand in the game if he picks up Shank off the top next turn.
Also, as Warma's just resurrecting effectively his Sethic, so I'll point out Cloak of Shadows is incredible as a card. It's probably the card that makes the deck as good as it is. I think without Cloak, the deck would lose a lot more often.
Absolutely agree, yeah. There was even builds that just didn't play this card early on.
Yes.
I find kind of absurd when you look at the things it can do now, which is it's not even just oh, you're racing me, right? And I need this extra turn. This is my ice block. It's even just well, Priest played Apotheosis on something and I'm out of coerces. Well, guess what, idiot? If I Cloak of Shadows, you just can't attack and your Apotheosis doesn't work. It's such a flexible tool that, deals with so many situations in this deck that I think it's a must include 2 of for sure.
And no real surprise, Jarla not going for Secret Passage. The weapons he's after all cost 3 mana. So he'll probably go fishing next turn for one if he doesn't actually draw one, of course. I think he's considering
into killing this
poison. Yeah,
I'm kind of into it. It's strange, but it's a bonus poison, and he already got 1 bonus poison off the first one maker with the paralytic. Obviously, deadly poison is slightly more damage, significantly more damage when you factor in how many charges a Swine Tusk Shank will actually have by the end of the game. But a Sethic being dead, I think, is a very big deal overall. Jarla disagrees, though.
Also, do you think it's fair to say that even versus Priest that draws relatively well, you don't actually need every poison in your deck to win the game?
Absolutely not. Yeah, that's 100% fair to say, yeah. I think if you hold on for a very long time, if you really hold back on damage for as long as possible, which I think is generally advised in the matchup as well. I think just doing little tiny bits of chip damage each turn is not the way to play, because obviously Priest can just heal back little pieces of chip damage every single turn. I think if you just wait until you have giant weapons and then start swinging it over the course of 1 to 2 turns, backed up by Sinister Strikes and Wicked Stabs, it's very easy to do 30 over the course of 2 turns. It's very easy to do 40 over the course of 2 turns, to factor in 10 healing from the Priest on the turn in between as well. So
it looks like Warma hands in the air like he really does care, because it looks like there was some internet issues. So we're sitting on the reconnect for now. Got to be frustrating, honestly. Just to, of course, nothing's changing with the game. The players will be able to pick up where they left off. But for just a mental aspect, it would annoy me. It annoys me when my internet goes and I'm just browsing on a website. Do you know what I mean? Never mind playing a tournament important game. You don't want stuff like that to throw you off your mental game.
Specifically when it's persistent as well, which I think it is with Warma at this point. Right? It's absolutely not the first time we've been seeing this coming up, and persistent internet issues are a real pain, as you said, even when you're just trying to casually live your life. When it's a matter of life or death for your competitive Hearthstone career, I imagine that is even more telling.
And especially when Warma's already felt the sting, right? Because he has already effectively been relegated and then auto-qualified back because of the sort of points or monetary value he had banked from his first promotion. So he already knows what it feels like to say, well, if I didn't have this backup, I'd just be done. I'd just be out. So, you know, he knows better than most right now. We are back in the game, though, and Warma, of course, could finish his turn. No problem at all.
4 shots at a weapon, only needed 1. We are off to the races. Oh my god, that's nutty.
And
prep swindle as well.
Yeah.
I think I will confess I didn't count his hand size before he came into the secret passage, but there's a chance this might involve burning a card if he goes prep swindle here. I'm not sure how full his opening hand was, but it was full. There was a lot of cards in there for sure.
It was...
I wonder.
6 without the secret passage?
Okay.
I
So
think.
he's fine. Yep.
Oh, sorry. No. It'll be 7 because he drew a card. Apologies. His natural card draw.
Still fine though.
Yep.
No big deal.
I mean, and that is pretty much just everything Jarla ever wanted from a turn of Hearthstone.
Correct. Yes. The one thing he would really love to have right now is the ability to ship some damage into this, remove this Sethic Veil Weaver without actually, sending damage into it. Just a brain freeze or something coming out of those wand makers instead, just some way of doing the damage. But outside of that, no big deal. You can send a surprising amount of weapon damage into minions and still win this game from this point.
Break your body.
It's also important for those of you who aren't overly familiar with this rogue deck, it does run double coerce as well. So you look at these bigger minions, this 6/6 taunt looks like an absolute nightmare. Well, a single coerce and Jarla can bat that one aside like it's no problemo.
So deadly, paralytic, coerce, cutting class fits in there as well at least once. He might not have the hand space to do it twice, but at least gets rolling one time. Yep, Warma raising the eyebrows. I think he kind of knows what's up. If he picks up a prize plunderer here, he can actually get this done and save the coerce if he can find the hand space to make that happen. Sure he can, though. He's only on 9 cards right now, actually, so he could just rip second cutting class.
Yeah, he could, right? Yeah.
Yeah. It's a matter of whether he wants to just spam poisons here instead, which he could do, right? He could just throw every poison he has onto this weapon and just smack into the 6/6. That's also just entirely fine.
Yeah, as you mentioned earlier, like, obviously you don't want to be hitting big minions or taunts. It's frustrating, but basically every poison you play gives you an extra swing of the weapon. So you're always going to have enough when you look at an 8/5 weapon and there's still at least 1 poison in his hand to make it, an additional durability. Like,
this weapon just has 40 damage on it already, and it's only going to continue. Like, it's never going to run out, and it's going to continue to get bigger over the course of the game. Like, yeah, it's completely absurd. But yeah, I think Jarla, once again, min-maxed the hell out of that turn. He's held on to a coerce. He's used his prize plunderer, used his face for 0 damage to take care of the 6/6 as discussed, but also not casting the second cutting class means that he has potential to use that on like a different prize plunderer on a different turn, potentially, right? And actually clear out something else, get maximum value out of things. Like, there's so many small details that he just got right that turn.
Yeah. It's just clean, because even if it's stuff you almost never benefit from, sometimes you do. So do it.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm waiting for the point in the evolution of this deck that people start just playing Jandis just to get the Shaman Legendary for Wind Fury. That's when you really win a game of Hearthstone.
So I think actually what you should do is play Wand Thief in your deck instead of like Wand Maker, for example, and then you just discover a Pexis Blast, because you empty your deck of minions incredibly quickly with this deck.
That's true.
So you just a Pexis Blast for the Wind Fury instead.
Okay, when our powers combine, we're genius.
Yeah.
Look at this, there's still just double Sinister Strike, double Wicked Stab.
I know.
I'm wondering if this is, I think that's what, is Jarla considering the cloak this turn? Probably, yeah, I guess. I think he's got 19 next turn, guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, there's one hero power stops that from being 19.
Now the coerce has to fit in as well,
Prep would have been lethal.
It doesn't quite. No. Yeah. He's 2 off currently, I believe, right?
You probably coerce into Secret Passage, right? To try and get the other... Oh, no, he can't do it.
I mean, Prize Plunderer would be good, right?
True,
if he picked it up here off Secret Passage.
It's weird though, right? Because Prize Plunderer would be good, but it leaves a minion on the board that, like, Samuro Apotheosis could happen, and then it feels less good.
Still had lethal outs, of course, because he was drawing cards off the Silver Leaf swing there as well, so still could have hit the prep for the lethal.
So many options. Choose suit.
Still a Mankrik in his deck, I believe, so this is not guaranteed to draw the Prize Plunderer off the Swindle. Otherwise, that would seem pretty ideal this turn. Yeah. Besides, he has damage to spare. Just going to play around the nonsense outcome. Deal
with no minions on board, what does Warma even do?
Yep.
Literally nothing. Literally nothing. I hero power and emote. Yes!
And that, friends, if you've never seen it before, is how hopeless that matchup is. They don't call it Einstein Rogue for no reason. You just build up your damage and you send it all to the face.
I thought you were going to say, and that, if you've not seen it before, is how to play Weapon Rogue.
I mean, true.
Yeah.
It kind of was, right? Like, obviously, I'm bringing up like the Einstein Rogue meme, and it obviously whatever is like the most go face deck in the meta, which for once isn't Face Hunter, I suppose, is always going to have that reputation of like, oh, it's just a deck for idiots. You just point everything at the face and you win the game. Honestly, I think that reputation is largely undeserved for Rogue. Like, I'm not saying that this deck is fun to play against. I'm not saying that it's like interactive. I think Cloak of Shadows is a problem that might need to get looked at some point. But there is still a lot of decisions to be made with this deck, and there's a surprising amount of trading that goes down with this game, with this deck, as we even saw there from Jarla as he shipped his first massive dagger swing of the game into a 6/6 taunt, where he had multiple ways in his hand to be able to eliminate it.
And I will say, again, people enjoy disagreeing, that's fine, but there's a huge difference between being very good with that deck and just playing that deck, right? Yeah, you're going to win a lot of games either, but when you're very good, you can like win games you arguably shouldn't. But let's talk about the next game we've got coming up. And Subtle's main gripe with this deck is that Bulwark of Azzinoth is pretty sick versus Weapon Rogue, and there's no way to draw it past just drawing it naturally.
Yeah, and again, crucially, this is a 34-card deck, or a 33-card deck, I guess, because one card splits into 4, if we want to be very technical about it. So it's 29 plus 4. So your deck size is even bigger than usual, right? So you're less likely than usual to draw one card with the Bulwark coming out. Now, myself and TJ actually tested this matchup with 2 Corsair caches in the deck, and that felt quite even. It did feel quite linear of like the games I got hold of a decent amount of armor gain plus a Bulwark of Azzinoth. I felt in very good position, and the games where I didn't, I felt completely helpless. And it didn't matter how many Shield Maidens, Rancors, Armor Vendors I played. It just didn't matter because you saw the amount of damage that Jarla was capable of that game, right? It was like comfortably 60, 80, 100 damage he would have done over the course of the game if it had gone on indefinitely. So that's a big problem to deal with. But the ability to tutor the Bulwark when I was playing two Corsair caches was a really big deal. And then, as I said, we tested this series in full with myself against Daruk, and immediately when I saw the warrior list come up and I was like looking at my deck tracker and looking through my list of the warrior deck I was playing, I was like, oh, how do I ever draw the one card I need that actually helps me win this game? So I think this series is going to be a very, very pivotal moment here on whether this warrior from Warma is able to pick up the Bulwark of Azzinoth.
I'll tell you what happens. War cash into the card to draw the weapon, easy peasy.
That's right. Yeah. How did I possibly overlook that, Raven? You are correct.
Clearly the correct line. But yeah, it is a tough matchup, and already I do think that Warma's probably feeling the fear a little bit, because the second this warrior doesn't take a win, he just has his own rogue, which, yeah, I guess he's confident with a warrior, but the rogue, I think, is actually still winnable, so maybe Warma's feeling okay, actually.
Yeah, and I like immediately called this out when we played the series with Derek, because we usually don't test whole series, right? We usually just kind of play
specific
games
matchups
back and forth. And I said immediately, like, this was really helpful playing the whole series, because I've immediately realized that Warma's lineup is just not built well around the threat of Weapon Rogue on the other side, right? Like, there's just no real answer to this.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to seeing what actually goes on here for the matchup. Let's just have a look here. Is there anything else that actually sticks out for Warma warrior-wise that can do anything, or do you think, are you, I guess, adamant that it is all just Bulwark?
I mean, like I said, there's a ton of armor gain going on, but I just don't feel like it's enough to get there. It's very difficult to gain enough armor through like Rancor and Shield Maidens to be able to outvalue it, so I do feel like it's fairly linear. And I was just wondering, because I do actually have my own little spectator client, and I'm watching the game in progress right now and was very curious about what is going on.
I'm also stuck on this screen, so subtle radio commentary.
So radio commentary. Interestingly, Jarla threw away Self-Sharpening Sword from the opening hand and mulliganed into Swine Tusk Shank, which is an interesting decision in and of itself. And was rewarded by picking up that Swine Tusk Shank in place. I think a lot of players would have just said, you know what, Self-Sharpening Sword, cool, I got a weapon in my opening hand, but it's very much the consolation prize weapon. And he chose to go all in for the Swine Tusk Shank instead. Since then, not a lot has happened, but you can now see, of course, that there is no Bulwark in hand for Warma just yet. But there is that War Cache that you were talking about, Raven, as giving himself a potential alternate out.
Yeah, War Cache, Corsair Cache, Victory Cache, I don't know. Stage dive going to come down now, though, that we are in the game. Apologies about the slight delay in missing a turn or so. That was just some issues on our end, so all sorted now. And this Swine Tusk Shank, the game begins now, Sottle.
I think the joke was like either source of cash can end up being big money or something like that. You didn't really give me a chance to put it together.
It would have been bad anyway.
Yeah. But Warma is trying to do his due diligence here. Step number one, try and pressure, right? Like, you at least might as well try and get some minions.
Try and win.
Yeah. Step number one.
I know you don't feel
at
like
least have a think about how you can win the game. Yeah. But yeah, get some minions in play. Picks up a Rakara as well, which is a really nice minion to support all of this, honestly. And this is a reasonable start so far with the minions coming into play.
Yeah, I will say I'm already half looking at when Cloak number 1 comes down, because with 2, I think you can be a little bit more free with the first one, right? Because it's not like Warrior has a big OTK. You really just say, what if it's like, you know, in the OTK Paladin days, right? If you could spend 3 mana to not take 20 damage or even 10, 15 damage one turn and then clean stuff up the turn after, well, that's worth it than just waiting till you're on 1 health and saying, well, I need to buy my life now for a turn.
Speaking of buying time, that's exactly what Jarla is doing here. Using that first swing of the weapon is a little bit scary because he's now not able to do so unless he finds a poison to start buffing up the charges. Does have Secret Passage to go digging for those on the following turn, though. But there is another very sizable minion that's going to come down here in the form of the Shield Maiden. All right, it's a big deal. Huge deal. Having the natural poison here that you can just play out if he wants to. Might just end up still being a Secret Passage turn, though.
Yeah, Coin Passage. I think, regardless of what happens, that Silverleaf is getting played this turn.
Okay. So 3 cards played so far.
Yep.
4 cards played so far. 5 cards played so far. Oof. Prize Plunderer.
It's almost like he's done this before.
Yep. can swing first here, because if he picks up another poison buff, he can play it for free, right? To discount the cutting class again.
Well, as long as it was 1 mana. Right?
Choose soon.
Yes. Specific poisons would have been playable at least. Prep Swindle now just thrown into the mix on top of everything else.
What, just a casual, 13 cards ahead in card draw now?
Yep. And so, here we are. Warma can go Rakara Warmal Challenger here. Very unusual thing for a non-rush warrior to be doing, but still equally powerful.
It exists.
Mm-hmm.
I like it, honestly. I think just make... at this point, it's not like he's exactly dead yet, right? He's on 28, he's okay. So use this turn to just play some good stuff, like get some minions on board, because the turns afterwards, you're going to need to fish for taunts, you're going to need to do something dramatic. There's Corsair Cash, I told you you'd draw it. Deep breath.
That's disgusting.
Maybe that's why he doesn't run it. This is like Corsair Cash, but a 1/3 with poison as well.
Yeah. And obviously, like, the way that his deck is built, he actually doesn't have any other weapons in his deck. Like, the version that plays Corsair Cash also had Outrider's Axe. So obviously you want multiple weapons if you're going to play Corsair Cash. But at this point, if he discovers a random Corsair Cash, then yeah, he is in business, because it's guaranteed to draw the Bulwark of Azeroth at that point. So he just has no other weapons in his deck. He plays Sword Eater as his other source of weapons, which obviously doesn't quite hit the same count.
Imagine if it just worked and buffed the minion. You'd be like, wait.
Paralytic Poison.
Well,
now we hit the crucial point as well, where Jarla already used 1 Sinister Strike, right, on the previous turn to, like, combo Coerce, which is a big deal, because actually, as counterintuitive as it seems, if Bulwark is going to be part of the game, you want to throw all of your Wicked Stabs and Sinister Strike at the Bulwark charges, right? Because they actually deal less damage than the weapons do by the time the weapons get up to like 8, 9, 10 attack. So the fact that Jarla is now already 1 Sinister Strike down means that he's going to have a much harder chance than normal.
Does have 1 maker though, which can help.
Plowing. That's true, yeah. Another Sinister Strike from the 1 maker could be a massive deal here for sure.
I actually really like Warma just not playing Corsair Cash until he plays Bulwark. So Jarla can't prepare for it, right?
Agreed, yes. The longer that you have to plan around the idea that your opponent has Bulwark, the longer you have to come up with ideas like, well, I need to hold on to this Sinister Strike, I need to hold on to these Wicked Stabs to punch through charges. And obviously, Jarla will... Jarla's obviously a smart guy. He will obviously have seen the same thing that I've seen, which is Warma does not draw Bulwark very often. So he might just choose to say, you know what? I'm not going to play around it. I'm just going to say you don't draw it, which is exactly what he seems to be doing if he's firing off this additional Sinister Strike. So yeah, concealed information, very powerful.
That can help versus Bulwark as well. None of the good options, though.
Nope. Wants Mage, if it's going to be an anti-Bulwark strategy, but yeah.
Or Hunter.
Or Hunter, true, yeah. Draws 2 cards still, so the hand's going to fill up to 10. Let's find some stuff to dump this time.
He's also getting... Oh, never mind. I was going to say he's also getting close to Ulgra, which means that would have chipped a Bulwark as well.
Dumps a Coerce, dumps a Prize Plunderer, okay. So head on board, big deal. Anytime he can be ahead on board is also a big factor, right? Because minions connecting face is an underrated facet of Hearthstone. It's not very likely with Weapon Rogue against Control Warrior, but if it can happen, especially when the charges of the weapon come down, that's a huge deal.
And it's going to make Warma not want to Bulwark, right? If there's a 2-1 and a 2-2 on the board.
Correct.
And the longer that happens, the more chance Jarla's got of just stealing this game, because he does have double Wicked Stab and Sinister Strike in his hand. Never mind the weapon that he's got equipped.
Right. Currently, what, 4, 8, 11, 16 damage next turn. So if there's no armor and like the Mancrick, Enraged Mancrick survives, then that is just going to be lethal. So yeah, Warma does have to flirt with the idea. There's actually the Demon Hunter hero power adding 1 to that as well. I haven't factored in. Yeah, Jarla, you see the reaction. He knows.
It's coin, sorry. Hero power shield slam.
Yes. Has to shield slam here. Just preserves an entire charge of the Bulwark, and preserving the entire charge of the Bulwark. Like that shield slam might have just healed you for 12, right? Like by in terms
This,
of the weapon not being able to hit you.
This Mancrick is huge though, right? Like it can already start chipping away.
And get this Sinister Strike cast, I can tell you that much. Yeah, shake of the head from Jarla. I think he's running through the numbers and coming to the same conclusion that I am, which that he's just going to be a little bit short here, it feels like.
He still has a self-sharpening sword though, right?
It does.
So could he actually just save any other poisons he's got left? Like use this weapon to break the Bulwark?
First things first, wants some help from Wanmaker. That's potentially huge. He's just going to dump the Demon Hunter hero power just to get rid of it, because why not? And then dump the Yoink, see what he ends up with. And he whiffs them all again!
I guess reinforce? Take Paladin? Make 1/1s?
Agreed.
Oh, look, imagine the difference Major Hunter would have made.
I think Major Hunter just wins the game on the spot at that point. I think an extra Sinister Strike from the Wanmaker might have just won the game on the spot there as well. But now the rush is coming out from Warma. Still has 2 charges here to defend with.
I mean, you could even just Barov and Blades. Oh my, okay. It's so funny and not funny at the same time.
Even this cruel Taskmaster, right, is actually just insane.
Yeah.
I don't know what I was thinking. Screw my reasoned analysis based on objective odds of drawing a particular card from your deck.
Exactly.
Just discover it, lol.
Now you're learning.
Yeah.
You played Hearthstone recently? Just discover it.
Yeah.
I just feel bad for Jarla using brain power.
I know.
The rest of this game, he's like, right, okay, so do this. And then Warma just goes, ha-ha! Second Bulwark.
Yeah, Warma nodding. Clearly, he had this planned out all along. There was no way he was going to die miserably to this weapon rogue unless he discovered exactly a second Bulwark.
I'm out of cards.
Cast a cloak from Jarla's perspective. I mean, honestly, like, I'm kind of joking about it, but I'm not even sure the second Bulwark has an impact on the game, because Jarla, from this point, even attacking over the course of 2 turns, he'll draw 6 cards, right? Which is, what, 21 damage? So I think the best Jarla can possibly do from this point is tie by killing Warma on the point
On
where
the fatigue
he draws
turn.
the 5 fatigue and the 6 fatigue, yeah.
Right. Just
But obviously, Bulwark, concede, game 3. Yep.
And that's done. Going to be moving on to game number 3. Warma evens it up. And now we're going to have to look at how the rest of the series looks, because Warma is going to be on his warrior once again, of course. And that leaves Jarla with his priest and his warlock. And just to give you a very brief rundown, he has his control priest that contains the double mage scribe, double flesh giant. And his warlock is kind of standard control warlock that you've probably ran into on ladder. You know, nothing too wild in there. So yeah, kind of some tough matchups, and ones where I think that the warrior now might have even more of a chance because it has that Cthulhu in there.
Yes, I think so too. Crucially, though, this is like greedy control Warlock, right? Which I do think we need the distinction, because you can play control Warlock, which is the more Void Drinker focused version, right? The more demon heavy version, where you actually play big minions on curve. You don't play Yasharaj, you just play Ticketus as your top end and Jiraxxus as your top end. Usually there's no strong man in that list either. That would have a very different spread of matchups in Last Hero Standing than this version of the deck would, right?
True. Yeah, it means that he can just go longer against that, but if he was against Face Hunter, of course, he'd be maybe feel a little bit worse. Just going to check out what they are queuing. It looks like it is going to be Warrior Warlock here, so Jarla deciding that potentially the sheer long-term power of Lord Jiraxxus potentially is enough to just beat down Warrior over time, regardless of removal of their own generation. Like, does any, minion or whatever generation beat a 6/6 every single turn? Probably not.
Probably not, no. And also the Cthulhu win condition, right? As long as you're able to hit one Cthulhu piece or the Cthulhu itself, if it gets shuffled in that quickly, while burning 10 cards with Ticketus and Yasharaj, then that removes that Cthulhu win condition from play entirely. So, bringing Control Warlock as a control buster is definitely a reasonable idea in Last Hero Standing. It's interesting again, because this is another one of those lineups, like when I was saying with Psycho, when I looked at his lineup, I was like, oh, like native Cthulhu in Mage, that's pretty interesting. Maybe that means he's leaving up Priest. That was another thing that I was considering looking at Jarla's lineup, right? Whereas this time it comes to fruition, because if Priest comes into the series, Jarla can just say, well, Warlock, there you go, busted. And I still think, even though Warma got out the series with his Weapon Rogue, which was a very big deal, it's still kind of showing how his lineup is a little bit weak to the kind of thing that Jarla's building, and perhaps illustrating how strong and well-rounded Jarla's lineup is overall.
Right.
That even from this point, like Warlock and Priest would both potentially delete this Control Warrior if there wasn't a Cthulhu in the Control Warrior, which changes the matchups a little bit as well. So the spread of matchups is always super interesting, but I think, Jarla, even having lost in a position where I think he could feel a little bit hard done by, still has good matchups to be able to queue into this Control Warrior.
Yeah, and it's one of those, again, weird effects of Last Hero Standing, where some lineups, instantly you look at them and go, oh, okay, that makes sense. And then some lineups look a bit random, and you really have to just dive into what not only the expected meta is, but the plans for each of those lineups, right? Or at least it's where the preparation is just key. And we've seen, right, in previous or Last Hero Standing tournaments of old, whether they're massive opens or even invitational, that getting the right read feels like it means even more in Last Hero Standing, because if you just bring something that no one can answer, what are they supposed to do? Whereas in Conquest, obviously, if you have an amazing deck, but you win once, well, it's won once, just like any other deck can do, right? So it is that weird thing where we've seen certain ideas really carry whole lineups and say, you have to scale this mountain just to beat this one deck. And if you do, because it can happen, good job. Now there's the rest of my lineup that's built for this problem, right? That if I lose with this, I can play these.
And just as an update, I assume we had some spectator issues at the start of the last game, which is why we missed the first couple of turns. I can confirm that the players just queued a test game against each other with their banned decks. It was Mage versus Mage. And I can also confirm, in standard Europe fashion, they both drew Incantus Flow in their opening hand, even when the game absolutely did not matter. So yeah, I'm sure we're just getting things nice and set up for you, making sure we don't miss any more of the action, making sure spectator mode is functioning as it should, because there is plenty of meat left in this series. And so the way this breaks down from here is we would expect the Warlock to beat the Warrior. Things can happen. You can just miss on burning any of the Cthulhu pieces, for example. That's made more likely, for example, if Warma gets a Turbo Cthulhu, like he actually gets all Cthulhu pieces very early and then just puts Cthulhu into the deck just as one card, right? Because at that point, that one card is less likely to be burned than four different pieces that would be removing in his deck. So you can change the odds in those positions. There are ways that the Warrior can get out of this, but Bulwark of Azzinoth, not a big deal this time around. It's not just like surviving is going to get the Warrior anywhere. From that point, we're going to switch over and probably see the Rogue come out. We will see the Rogue come out because it'll be the one remaining deck. And then we'd expect to see the series going all the way because, again, this is greedy Warlock. And greedy Warlock does not have good matchups against anything that really just tries to play minions early out through the early stages of the game. So expect this one to go all the way from this point, I would say.
I'll also throw like a potentially strange outcome here, is that there's a chance, especially based on what we saw in the Rogue game, that Warma can actually just get off to a turbo start with the Warrior. Because although, it's Control Warrior, he's playing Scorpids, he's playing Stage Dive, 2 Athletic Studies, he's playing Kargath Prime, Sword Eaters. Like, there's a chance that he just plays a ton of stuff similar to how we just saw him play in Rogue and overwhelm the Warlock, right? So although it's not likely, it looked close just based on the sheer number of minions that actually Warma played last game.
Yeah, it's not a bad shout. And again, it's something that the Warlock can be weak to, right? You put all these greedy cards in your hand, sometimes you draw them. You're not entitled to just draw Armor Vendor into Soul Shear every game that you play with all this expensive top end stacked up in your deck, Like, when you play, Yasharaj, Jiraxxus, Alexstrasza, 2 Twisting Nether, 2 Strongmen, Sociologist Militia, and Ticketus, right? Like, that's already 10 cards that you can just quite reasonably have in your opening hand.
Right.
At that point, Warrior can maybe just curve out and do a bunch of damage, and if they can curve out and do a bunch of damage, they might be able to put on enough pressure to delay Ticketus turns, for example, because you'll die if you play Ticketus this turn and just representing too much damage. So that is for sure another way out of it for the Warrior in this point, but largely I would say overwhelmingly favoured for the Warlock.
Right. Well, we'll have to see. And Jarla is a bit of a Warlock player. He's played it just a couple of times in Grandmasters over the past few years, so let's see how it goes again. Our apologies about the delay. We just want to make sure that everyone's good to go from a technical standpoint, so there's no issues during the game. But we are in now, and we are off to a reasonable start, at least on the Warma's side. Just having, again, like I mentioned, the Scorpid into Kargath, the Stage Dive that's going to be corrupted already in there. So not a bad start at all, I would say.
Tap, taparoo, and I think already Jarla will be looking at this hand and saying, you know what? Disaster averted so far. Like, I have stuff to do. I'm not just going to...
I've got Hysteria.
Yes, I've got nerfed Hysteria, indeed.
No Shadow Steps for Jarla. Weird though, right? Because, obviously Jarla just wants to tap, but he just can't. So it's just going to be a pass. He'll go to 10 cards, and I doubt he wants to tap a Coin Drained Soul.
True. Are we just getting there now? Is this just it? Kargath on curve.
The weird thing about Kargath on curve is it runs into Hysteria on curve now, right?
Also true, yeah.
Which is a bit of a shame.
But at the same time, what's the long-term game plan, right? Is Warma actually just going to set this out and go long and outvalue the Warlock? No, I don't think so. I think Warma's the aggro deck here, right? And he should be taking risks appropriate to that idea.
Yeah, it's interesting actually, right? Because if Kargath comes down last turn, Hysteria gets played, you play Body of Cthulhu, and then, okay, yes, they could have Siphoned Soul, but at that point you just say, fine. But are they likely going to have multiple good ways to kill minions turn after turn?
This minion, while having Hysteria in his hand. Right, which makes sense from his perspective, because he's saying, well, how aggressively can the Warrior really curve out here? And I would like to just play my 3/7 on curve next turn, right? Which is a big deal.
Right.
Instead, he was met with a 6/6 on the other side, which obviously would have been ideal at that point to still have the poisonous minion on the board, so he could use Hysteria instead. But no way of knowing. Very few ways for Warma to generate, meaningful, powerful minions there, I'd say. So.
And the Shield Slam was very nice there for Warma, just knocking aside the Ogre and just, okay, I could just Warmaul Challenger the 2/2, 6 to face, get the armor banked, didn't even go for the Stage Dive, looking pretty good all around.
Yes. And crucially there for Warma's chances in this game, that Ogremancer did not corrupt a Cascading Disaster.
Yeah,
right? Meaning
true.
that there's very little removal option here for Jarla.
Also, as well, I will just wind that back a tiny bit. Of course he didn't stage dive. There's only the Prime and Kargath 2 draw, so...
Exactly,
yeah.
yes.
But I think even if he could have got something, I like the armor up. But yes.
A little bit of wince.
6 to face.
A wince at the amount of soul fragments going in the deck there, and I don't think Warma's wincing because he's afraid of that coming out and healing. I think he's wincing because he's afraid of what that means for a potential soul theologist militia coming down on the following turn. But he's going to get some good news here again, that there is no such threat in sight.
Well...
Alright, moderate news. Yeah.
Hold on. Oh,
Alright.
close.
So just going to have to end up being coin nether here, I imagine.
Would you... He could Hysteria, but I guess what's the answer? He could Hysteria tap.
You could. That's fair, yeah.
But mainly because he doesn't have anything to corrupt with the nethers, right?
That's true. No, it's a good point. I actually completely blanked on the idea that Hysteria even cleared here. He was up to 1-7, that was a 50-50. No, it's slightly less than that. I'd have to attack it twice, right, before it attacked the 4-1 on the other side.
Yeah, I think most importantly, like, it always kills the Kargath, which is all you're bothered about, right? You're like, oh, okay, it's got a 1-7, fine. Ooh. Like, stage dive claw machine? What's so funny?
I'm seeing the lines, Raven. That's what's so funny.
The line I just suggested? Oh, you on about some stupid weapon buff line with the...
No. It's way better than that. So the claw machine, right? You take that, it's discounted to 5 because of the Athletic Studies discount. You hold that Athletic Studies discount for the entire game, and then you turbo draw through all your Cthulhu pieces, shuffle Cthulhu in the deck, and then as you play the last Cthulhu piece for 5 mana, you also play Claw Machine on the same turn, so you then complete Cthulhu and pull it out of your deck before your opponent is able to ticketus any of it. Genius.
You've been hanging out with me too much, so... We've switched roles where I'm just suggesting the right plays and you're going loopy. I wonder if Jarla's almost forced into a twist in this turn. Arguably, you could just say, well, okay, I take 7. I'm still not dead, but you might be dead the turn after that. Because it's important to note as well that Jarla is playing an Alex Straza, the Lifebinder, in his list, but Warma isn't playing anything burst related outside of like Ysera with Nightmare and Cthulhu itself, I guess, are the only real burst outs. Oh, okay. And Fire Warlocks from Sword Eater, but you know what I mean. Ooh, okay.
There's
Tempo play.
Straza on the Claw Machine.
Just wants an 8-8.
Not looking at that at all. Guild Maiden Coerce, pretty strong. Kargath Prime, also pretty strong.
What about trade Bladestorm Shield Maiden?
What now?
It's because Coerce is a more flexible card to hang on to long
it's just better,
term.
isn't it?
Mm-hmm. See that too?
And again, although, like you could say, well, that's a lot of damage for Kargath Prime to take. If you landed Kargath with full health, it's getting nethered, right? It's getting killed somehow, so it just doesn't really matter.
Yep. Siphon Soul, Cascading Disaster, all of those things. Even if it's not a Twisting Nether at the end of it, there'll be ways to kill it, even if it's at full health. It's not a big deal. Oh, this list is so greedy! Double Nether, double Siphon, double Strongman, Yasharad. Oh my goodness. There's that War Cache. Like I said, Bulwark of Azzinoth, nowhere near the nuts in this situation though.
I thought you guys said, like I said, Bulwark of Azzinoth number 2. Yeah.
Yeah. It's an alternate name. Continuing to push tempo though, I love it. Stacking up armor as well, which I still would hesitate. Well, I mean, I guess I'd slightly hesitate to say is irrelevant, because I think, you know, the ability for Ticketus and Yasharaj is the great equalizer in terms of fatigue, and you are going to need hundreds of armor, I would say, to equalize the gap between those two.
I think it's relevant to buy time for Warma to draw the Cthulhu pieces, right? Like, that's why it's relevant.
Yeah, but again, I don't think you lose time by being pressured out of the game by the Warlock. I think you lose time to just having your deck burned away by Ticketus and Yasharaj most of the time. So I still don't know how relevant it will end up being, but it's an impressive number right now, nonetheless.
Note to self, Sottle finds 61 to be an impressive number.
Yeah.
Warma's Warcash is going to have to be pretty impressive, though, because that is one of the flaws of this build, is that you play Cthulhu, but you don't really play card draw. So in the matchups where you think, well, oh, it's a control matchup, you don't want to draw cards, that's true, but you play Cthulhu, so you kind of do want to draw cards, right?
Alright, live by the Bulwark, die by the Bulwark.
Snuff out the weak.
Did find an answer to the Tamsin though, which is crucial. I think ideally he was looking for the weapon to be the answer to the Tamsin, but kind of got out of jail with the Bone Chewer Raider? Bone Chewer Rider, right? No, Raider. I was right the first time? Yes.
Outrider Axe would have actually been sick, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Like, oh.
Finally, a cascading disaster comes into hand for Jarla. I think, next best thing to Ticketus right now in terms of he's spending so many of these expensive cards without really corrupting anything with them up until this point.
Can Jarla look along the lines here of, like, tap, depending on tap card, like Ogre, Siphon? I think he wants to draw this Ticketus and get something going soon.
Agreed. The longer he waits, like in realistic terms, like claw machine memes aside, what you can do as a Cthulhu control deck against Warlock is if you do get into the luxurious position of drawing your fourth Cthulhu piece, you just sit there with the fourth Cthulhu piece in your hand, right? Until you try and bait out the Ticketus and the Yasharaj from your opponent.
Yeah, and
then once all those things are completed, you shuffle in, because at some point, if you wait them out long enough, they do have to burn cards from your deck because they will lose in fatigue otherwise, because they've been life tapping the whole game and you haven't, right? So I think there is stuff that you can do to play around that situation, but it is slim pickings.
Well, Warma now is how many pieces? 2 in the deck still?
Yes, 2 in the deck still, I believe.
Okay.
The veil wanes.
Just gotta be tap again, right?
Has to. Needs to keep cycling.
Even if he just gets Jaraxxus as well, right? Like, that's just good. It's not like Ticketus is the only good card he can draw, and he's worried that if he keeps missing it, it's going to be bad. But there he is. Well, there they are, I guess, because look at all those. Those are some good cards.
Yeah, finally, Jarla's able to get something going. And this time, the double Bulwark hand is not quite on the same level as it was in the previous game. I think Warma now will be trying to get some cards out of his hand in order to make room for the Ysera value.
Is there much in it, though? 1 strongman? That's it, isn't it?
No, Warma for the Ysera value.
Oh, sorry.
I don't know how you heard Jarla for the Yasharaj, but I know the names sound similar. But
yeah, look, Warma, Jarla, I'm going to get them mixed up.
Warma, Yama, Ysera, Yasharaj, yeah, it's the same thing. Yeah.
This is just going to be a... Wait. Yep. Okay.
With the sociologist last turn, Raven.
No, I know.
Okay. Seemed very bewildered by what was going on.
Wait, did he just not burn any Cthulhu pieces then?
I don't think so.
Oh. Okay.
I did.
Oh, he did burn one. Let me check.
3 damage down. Venomous Scorpid. Yeah, no real options being picked up here. Because now, with the Cthulhu win condition gone, Warma has to set up some kind of tempo win condition or hold out all the way through fatigue after losing 5 more cards from his deck at some point in the game, which I don't really think is possible.
And he lost 2 Rancors and a War Cache as well as Lord Barov and Eye of Cthulhu.
Oh, he did lose the eye. Okay.
Yeah.
My bad.
So even like with the War Cache as well, that's just a ton of resources just gone.
Mm-hmm.
Do you like just going big here? Just playing Yasharaj, or do you think Jarla... I mean, okay, do you think Jarla's going to greed it? Of course Jarla's going to greed it. But like, do you think this is, I guess, the way to go, or could he have just gone really big?
I agree with this, right? And having already hit the Cthulhu piece at this point, there's no rush, right? So I think Jarla understands that this game is going to go all the way from this point. If it's going to go all the way, it doesn't matter how favored you are with it going all the way, which I think Jarla is already massively favored. You might as well just be as greedy as possible because that's how to maximize his chances.
Sure. I guess for me, like, as long as he just hits 5 cards, right, is all he's really after.
Yes, exactly. He still has a couple more turns of leeway to be able to get done, because again, it's not like Warma's just going to draw all these cards and get more of these.
Oh, wait a minute. The Bulwark of Azeroth, there's a plan. I take no damage, but I deal the damage.
Yeah.
So crazy that a game can look, maybe I won't say so close, but reasonably close, and then suddenly look like the most unwinnable thing in the world.
Yeah.
It's just such an annoyance.
Talking to TJ the other day, who's had to cast like a bunch of Yasharaj Warlock games in Americas, and he was like, I wish just at the start of a Yasharaj game with Cthulhu, it would just tell you which 5 cards you would burn if Ticketus burns any cards over the course of the game. Just so you'd know if you were going to lose a Cthulhu piece or not.
And that's the thing, like, I've even complained about Ticketus before, just being grumpy about it, and it's not that it's like overly strong. It's not that it's overly strong, it's just annoying.
It's just annoying, yeah. I agree.
So there are, I believe, 4 out of those 6 cards of Soul Fragment still for Jarla. So he is going to start hitting Fatigue relatively soon himself. And Warma's now sort of removal-based deck can kick in, especially with all this armor. His shield's sick.
I mean, the shield times are insane, you're not wrong. Warma does still have the Ysera to try and get the job done with, but the problem is, like, again, even though the fatigue is close with the amount that Jarla had to life tap, and again, Jarla only had to life tap so much because Ticketus and still Jiraxxus were buried so deep in the bottom of his deck. But even though that's equalized the fatigue more than you would normally see in this matchup, Warma has this collection of cards that you see in his hand, and that's it to finish the game here, whereas Jarla still at some point gets to play Jiraxxus, right?
I've got a question.
End up being the great equalizer. Go on.
What if this is like fragment, 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 not Jiraxxus? And I'm being kind of serious. Like, does that actually, that whole additional turn and then fatigue starting instantly after Jiraxxus is played?
So I'll tell you the one thing that I'm looking at right now, Raven, which I've never seen this interaction play out before, is whether or not Warma can tank fatigue hits for long enough with his second Bulwark of Azeroth for Fatigue to end up killing Jarla. I have no idea whether that's possible or not.
Well, let's find out.
Yeah. Because you can milk it, right? Like, you can take the 1 tick, the 2 tick, the 3 tick.
Oh, yeah. You
as long as you
just got to do the maths, right? And work
and then
out what
play the
last few-
Bulwark really late. And as far as I'm aware, that interaction should work because you take the fatigue damage on your turn. It passes back to you as your turn, so the weapon should be live to then absorb that damage, as far as I understand it. I've just never seen that interaction before, so I have no idea if it actually works or not. But it would be extremely fitting if, for the second time in as many games, Jarla just gets scammed by a second-generated Bulwark of Azzinoth.
And is this the time now for Warma to just, like, slam down Ysera? So it's played, so he gets the cards, and then he can start playing them next turn, right? Just bounces back a strongman, I suppose.
Yep, I think so. Seems logical. He can then clear up the 3-2 with the remaining Jawbreaker weapon charge.
What? Is there ever a reason to bounce back the 3-2? Is that going way too deep?
What?
Oh, wait, it's not corrupted, is it? Never mind.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Because it draws a card, right? So it's either Jarla never plays it, which is fine, you've deleted a card from the game, or he plays it and goes deeper into fatigue.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's not corrupted, so I apologize.
Yep. So here we are. We have reached fatigue. Jarla will have been doing a much better job of tracking the cards that were being burned than I did earlier, so he'll know exactly what he has left to deal with. He'll basically know this exact hand that he's dealing with on the other side, outside of the Warcash stuff, so he will be accounting for Bladestorm, for Brawl, for Ysera. He will know that those tools need to be dealt with.
It's kind of interesting, right? Because like now, I guess it's different now, but because the 2 strongmen are the same stats as a 6, like the demon from the hero power, it's like, oh, Bladestorm might actually be pretty good.
Right.
So it begins.
So it begins indeed. And you see very smartly as well, Jarla's held on to a lot of Soul Fragment cards, a lot of healing. At this point, he has 4 more Soul Fragments to shove in the deck, and he has the Drain Soul as well. So he's going to wait, I imagine, to take a little bit of damage before he puts those Soul Fragments back in the deck to be able to regain a little bit of health, just, you know, manipulate the fatigue counter a little bit.
Also, okay, there's Brawl. I was going to say as well, Ysera Awakens normally will do a good enough job of like setting everything to Bladestorm as well. But I guess it doesn't matter too much now. Now that
so at this point,
the last minion that isn't a 6/6 has died.
Yes, exactly. The only minions left at this point are 6/6s. So at any point, whenever Warma decides this is now too many 6/6s, he can clear that board with Bladestorm.
Oh, I guess that's not strictly true as well, because if Warma plays Laughing Sister, for example, there'll be one that's a 6/3.
True. That's true. Jarla can also, if he's got a really good read on things, shoot one of these spells at one of his own minions to change the Bladestorm breakpoints. And then Warma would have to use like Dream or Awakens to remove that smaller minion first to then Bladestorm all the other ones away. It's things you can do.
Also, like, Warma can say Bladestorm these, and then the next 6/6 solo, he can actually Dream back, because that's like more expensive to play to limit some of the turns.
Right. Yep, very true.
Makes sense.
Do you think Jarla knows yet? Like, he knows there's a Warcash weapon in hand, right? That he's just not seeing. Do you think he's figured it out at this point?
The true soul read.
Hmm.
What if it's just the bad? What if it's just like the baton? You know what I mean?
True. Yeah.
Which you just wouldn't bother equipping most, unless it's like lethal.
Fair. Still at 33, you can see how I said, you know, I'm hesitant to say that the armor will be irrelevant, and it does seem like it might just come into play here.
I just want to point out that if Warma wins, I did say the armor could be relevant. if he doesn't win, we won't talk about it.
Sure. Deal. You have to be the Soul Shear and the Drain Soul here, I would imagine. It's a good time. I guess that does technically waste 1 healing, because you would go to 27 with 2 fragments in your deck.
Wait, no, he needs to, right? He has to kill this.
Well, you have Cascading.
Oh, sure.
This is literally the last minion that you'll ever see, and I think you know that for a fact at this point.
Shall I destroy you?
Yeah, because if he doesn't kill it, the Nightmare just gets activated, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, taking the heals.
Look at Warma. Look at what he's doing right now. He is not doing anything except counting fatigue damage. That's all he cares about right now.
The only thing that worries me
is the latest possible turn I can play this weapon.
It's counting on his hands. Someone get that guy an abacus.
Is this weapon charge ever going anywhere except the opponent's face? I guess there's still the soul fragments to be dealing with. Yeah. So swinging it here would just negate 1 damage.
Yeah.
Right?
And
1 damage over healing anyway.
And also he knows there's no taunt, so he can literally swing it the turn he plays the Azeroth, right?
Right.
There's no taunt, so...
Jarla swinging away with these Jiraxxus weapon charges as well.
It's playing right into it.
Yeah. And spicy, Raven.
Oh, yeah. Favorite kind of Hearthstone.
Like, I'd love to, like, just count this and tell you who wins from what point, but the problem is, like, it's so dependent on, like, whether Jarla is swinging with the weapon, whether he isn't, how many extra turns that Warma can tank.
Well, now he has to play it, right? Yeah.
No.
It doesn't?
Doesn't.
Wait,
He can awaken...
Have I miscounted fatigue?
Yeah, he just took 7, right? So he can awaken Bladestorm and then not play it.
Oh, sure.
Tank 1 more.
Yeah, right. Best to hero power, not that it matters.
Running out of cards.
Jarla just blinks in response to the 4th Bulwark of Azeroth he's seen in 2 games.
Yes. So this attacks 1 charge. The fatigue attacks another. Yeah, no, Jarla's still fairly comfortable here, I think, now that we see all things considered.
Should Warma have waited 1 turn?
I think he could wait 1 turn, right? That's how I was counting it out.
So...
Because now he tanks the weapon and the 6/6, the other 6/6 attacks face, and he just takes the damage from fatigue and he dies, yeah. I feel like that was 1 turn early.
Yeah.
I also feel like it doesn't necessarily make a huge difference. Although, yeah, Jarla tanked 7 that turn, so he still had 1 more turn to play out anyway.
Right.
So 1 more turn I don't think would have made a difference.
Okay.
It did feel 1 turn early from Warma, unless I was missing something, but extremely complicated late game scenario for sure. You know, like I spotted the out with the Bulwark early, and Warma clearly did as well, because you could see quite obviously how he was navigating towards that position from multiple turns out, and then he stopped and started counting it out at that point. So it's kind of interesting to see how things would have panned out a little bit differently.
Yeah, good point. He didn't hero power that turn. He played the Azeroth.
Yeah.
And then like if that would have made the difference or not, I'm not sure. But yeah, it's a tough matchup, especially the second the Cthulhu piece gets burnt away, everything changes. And I think Warma took the right approach, and whether, you know, calculations were slightly correct or slightly incorrect, whichever way you want to look, then it was probably still going to end 1 way, right? Because I think Jarla was just in too good of a position, especially with all of the soul fragments that he'd retained, or the soul fragment generation he'd retained.
Yeah, I think in the end it doesn't actually make a difference, no matter if Warma did wait an additional turn there. I think in Warma's head, he played it willingly a turn early because the board was clear that turn, and it wouldn't have been clear on any other turn, right? If he had waited,
It would have been
initially,
a
could have used all his removal spell. So he played it when there was no minion able to attack, and maybe in his head that extends things a little bit further. You know, maybe he'd got to the point where he'd counted every way he could think of, and they hadn't found a way that could win, so just went for something else instead. Like, who knows? But at the end of the day, I think he was losing that one still. Even then, you can see, we spent so much time talking about how that was a bad matchup, and then Jarla had a pretty bad pan out, right? Jiraxxus almost exactly last card, and Ticketus was like bottom 8, bottom 10. 10 or something in the end, especially in terms of legitimate cards, not including Soul Fragments. And still you can see, like, even though that looks close, it's an extremely secure win for the Warlock in the end.
I think it's kind of interesting, right? Because you could argue that what, like, Jarla was, Warma was 2 turns away from it. If he survived like 2 turns more, then that would have been the difference. And when I mentioned, like, what if the cards was like fragment, 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 other card, then Jiraxxus, maybe that gap actually makes it get there. Very, very interesting. But you are right, obviously, very, very favoured matchup, and it took a lot for Jarla to even look like he was in any real level of trouble. But it means we are moving next up. Here, Jarla, of course, on the Warlock again in this last hero standing week, and Warma going to be on that Rogue with a pretty solid opening, but Jarla's opening doesn't look too shabby to me either. I'm guessing you were warring at the Jarla's opening and not Warma's?
I was warring, yeah, that's exactly what I was doing. Yeah, this kind of bothers me generally with Control Warlock, right, is that you don't get to build your deck this greedy and then draw Spirit Jailer into Spirit Jailer opening. Like, that's just not fair. That shouldn't be how Hearthstone works. You should have to put like 6 1-drops in your deck to draw 2 1-drops in your opening hand.
Efficient is sufficient.
Nice early fragment there.
Indeed. In fact, this is likely to get cleaned up here. It's attack, right, sure. Magic Bump will still happen though, just to activate.
Yeah, I was going to say, regardless of whether there's Soul Share or not this turn, I like just saying, you know what, you're having 4 cards, and that's it. No more. You've had enough. And I guess, luckily, in a roundabout way for Jarla, that one of those cards was Shadow Step, so it's actually only 3.
Yes, indeed.
I'm waiting already. Well, actually, Raven, the reduction goes below 0.
I mean, true, yes.
Yeah, but it doesn't make an impact in this matchup, does it?
No. What? Raven, you're literally arguing with yourself right now. What are you
Yeah, well, you're not, and it feels weird, so someone has to do it.
I mean, you haven't said anything moronic for a while. I'm not going to argue with you if you're not dumb.
I don't know whether that's supposed to make me feel better or worse. You argue with me a lot.
It's my specialty, yeah. I'm not sure if I'm being insulted or not.
Crosses the uncrowned.
Cleave going to come down and get a Lucky Soul. Yep. Yeah, not bad. Just a spider tank, right, for Warma, really.
Yeah, good pickup, honestly. Just an extra tempo minion. If it ends up drawing a card, great. If it doesn't, yeah, spider tank just to keep pressure. Like
there's a lot of bad ones, right? Like School Spirits and stuff like that you definitely don't want. But sometimes, and we've already seen it today, that sometimes you just play Vanessa because it's a 2/3 on that turn, and you just get what you get.
Indeed, yes. The good old River Crocolisk. Well, Jarla has kind of drawn the one curve that wins against aggressive decks with Greedy Warlock. He's drawn Soul Fragment, Soul Fragment, Soul Fragment, Soul Fragment, Militia. So I imagine that's the curve we're going to continue along here. Could go like School Spirits, Spirit Jailer this turn. You could go Soul Share Spirit Jailer this turn, but it's less mana efficient.
I actually like the Jailer in Soul Share, or even maybe Soul Share Hero Power.
I almost want to limit my taps at this point because, well, there's 3 fragments in the deck right now. You're going to put 2 more sets in, so there'll be 7 total. Oh, no, 3 more sets in, actually. Yeah, I guess you've got plenty of buffer. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, right? You tap now, but put the fragments in later, right? True. Because you're not playing Jailer or School Spirits as well, and then you play them in the next 2 turns.
Very fair. Yeah, this is smart. So you tap first, you put the fragments in after, and now at this point, you're still sort of waiting around to see if there's a field contact turn coming down, right? Because there's still the discounted cards in hand. So if then field contact were to happen this turn, you still have that School Spirits built up in hand to be able to deal with that, and then you can go Coin Militia the next turn. Seems strong.
Yeah, and I think as well, there's... Let me just triple check. 5 Soul Fragments, 6... Okay, yeah. I was going to say, even if field contact doesn't come down this turn, I wouldn't even mind playing it anyway, because yes, you've used School Spirits, but you've gained a militia. You know what I mean? Which kills a field contact. So seems like a win-win.
Yeah, 100%. I think Warma's even considering not playing the Cult Neophyte here. Perhaps playing it and shadow stepping it.
Because it doesn't
playing it
right.
It doesn't stop anything really, but playing it next turn
Doesn't do
stops. It just doesn't do anything. Playing it next turn stops coin militia, right? If he was to play it on the following turn, which is a much bigger deal.
If there's ever a turn now and ever a time, Jarla goes kill that straight away. So now Warma needs the second one to stop him coining militia.
Yes.
Gets a minion down. There's only 1, 3, 2 on the board. Like Jarla's setting himself up very nicely. Even as the backup, right? With you know, Ogremancer, Siphon Soul to kill anything scary. Like once this militia's been played.
Yes. It's not the draw. Warma starved of card draw so far. He's done the early game job with Rogue perfectly. Chip damage, built a board, been awkward. Jarla's been forced to park clear every time, right? Just not really been doing anything. Oh, this is cute. Yeah, you can shadow step it back. It costs 1. You corrupt it and
draw.
Play it again. Yeah, I did not catch this, but this is very clever.
And like maybe even Tenwu. Oh, okay, maybe not. No.
Yeah, just redaggering.
Yeah. I think if he drew dead, there would be an argument to like Tenwu and replay again, right?
Yes, agreed. Yeah, Warma gonna roll his eyes here, but again, there's a very clear sequence of things that could have played around this outcome, right? With the Cult Neophyte that he did have.
The tools were there.
And obviously, it's very, very easy for a commentator to say staring at both hands, but I do generally feel like soul fragments into militia is quite often the thing that you lose to.
Well, field contact's going to get cooking now for Warma, so there is a chance that he can come back, but it's probably going to take him like a turn and a half now to actually fight back properly. Brain Freeze, fantastic pickup. Shadow Step, fantastic pickup.
That's the money.
But again, just a reminder, like, okay. This is a fantastic turn for Warma, but killing this militia board doesn't just win him the game. Like, he does have to finish out the last bits of damage here.
Yeah, it kind of does though, right? Because he's done everything else that he needs to do this game. He's got 17 damage through. He has a Wicked Stab in his hand.
Jarla has like 1 million soul fragments though, right?
That's true, but you do still need to draw. Like 1 in 3 of his draws are a soul fragment right now. Like it's not that many.
So many options.
What if he soul shares then taps?
Yeah, I think this is smart. Doesn't quite have enough tools right now to get this done. There's no fragment.
So, a couple of options here. Siphon Soul and the Soul Share look the most appealing, but there is also a thought to, does Ogremancer ever work out better? Obviously, he takes more damage because he leaves the Mankrik up, but he has an Ogremancer, so that's just a very tough call, I think.
Yeah, it's fair.
Oh, the tap. Okay, paid for itself. And that's it. Good talk.
Good talk.
Either way, they corrupt the Cascading once, right? Whichever play he went for, so it was always going to happen, but this is about to get a little bit scary for Jarla.
Yes, indeed. Warma doing his absolute level best not to use this Tenwu at any point either, just really trying to greed this as much as possible for an eventual Alexstrasza, but now double Wicked Stab in hand! Oh, he's so close in terms of just getting there with the damage. Ended up taking a 5 with the Kazakus Golem as well, which I find a little bit surprising.
What did you want him to go for?
Could have just taken a 1 there just to keep cycling.
Play?
Right?
Okay.
Yeah, because if this draw whiffs, then he's stuck a little bit. Yeah, it kind of did. Like, maybe I'm just too greedy. Maybe having the second Wicked Stab in hand means you're more free to use the Tenwu here. But I think just picking up a 1-mana Golem here would have given him 2 more draws to find something playable off the field contact.
Choose soon.
Ends up going with the secret passage instead. Is continuing to be greedy with the Tenwu, which I do like, I do respect. This looks very unplayable though, and it is! Huge whiff.
There's the Alex, and there goes the Alex.
Yeah. Golem ended up as rush spell damage +2. I do like the spell damage choice, especially with one of those wicked stabs in hand being discounted. He's alarmingly close to just straight up lethal. Has 6 damage twice next turn, and he has 8 damage twice the turn after that when the wicked stabs upgrade naturally.
What if he goes just like Soulshare, Cascade, Tap?
I'm so terrified by these taps. Oh.
But he's putting another 2 soul fragments in. He currently has 8. He'll go up to 10 if he soul shares first.
Yeah.
Which you would want to do anyway to make sure the cascading kills the 3/1 Divine Shield.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know what else anything does, right? You just can't leave the field contact on the board. The fact that can die this turn is the only thing that keeps him alive, right?
Yeah.
Oh, Alex, okay. That's a card.
Which now leaves Warma 2 damage off lethal this turn. Spell damage +2 on the Greater Golem. Each wicked stab doing 6 for 12 damage. Not enough mana to fit in the hero power for.
I was honestly, with the way some of the games have gone today, I was just expecting like Mozaki. Then it's just like, oh, okay. And go again though.
This is smart. Obviously, he's expecting to get nethered here, but also, it's like soul fragments accepted. If Jarla nethers here, Warma has lethal next turn because his wicked stabs upgrade, so they will now do 8 damage each with the Greater Golem plus spell damage. So Jarla will need multiple soul fragments to get himself out of range, and he did not hit it. So now he needs to nether, he needs to tap, and he needs to...
He can't.
Oh no, he can't. He's
just dead.
No, he's just dead. He's just dead. That is a square series. You're absolutely right.
Nice setup from Warma. He kind of pulled that out of nothing, to be honest, as he wasn't really given the tools that you would expect to have as Rogue at this point in the game. Jarla went for the nether, and again, there were other options, even though they probably looked a little bit weird, but I don't think there was any real world where you don't nether that turn from Jarla. So although it looked bad, so to speak, due to the outcome, it was always going to be nether.
Yeah, there's just no other way to do it, right? Like, Tamsin, Siphon was never going to do enough, right?
But
like,
there's also like weird double hysteria depending on the outcomes of Jandis. You know what I mean? Like, there was weird stuff he could have tried, but in no real game of Hearthstone do you not just twist in there.
Completely agree, yeah, and I just don't even with like Tamsin Hysteria, I don't think it was going to get anything done, because you'd still need like mana at the end to tap into soul fragments as well, right? Because, you know, let's not forget he was just still dead, even if he...
Yeah, well, he could have tapped, right? It would have been 4 + 3 and then 0 for the second Hysteria if he needed it.
Okay, so if just double Hysteria clears, then
yes.
alive, but yeah, okay.
But again, it's very silly.
Ridiculous.
Yes.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
I think in the end, very nicely played game from Warma. I think he got out of the greed with the Tenwu at exactly the right point. As I said, I think being greedy with that for as long as possible. You know, when you hit the Warlock matchup and then you go Octobot discounting a Wicked Stab and a Tenwu in your opening hand, I think you're immediately thinking OTK, right? Like, that's just where your head is at that point, because you hit so many combo pieces to be able to go Alexstrasza, Shadow Step, Tenwu, all of that business, chuck in the Wicked Stabs on top. And I think he was trying to stick to that plan for as long as possibly could, but then he hit that one window where he just said, okay, force nether. Just absolutely no other card is good enough, right? Because if he'd have just played one Jandis, suddenly Tamsin double Siphon Soul is very much good enough.
Right.
And then Jarla starts to put himself out of range. So he forced the nether, he got the nether, he won the little bit of RNG with Jarla not hitting multiple soul fragments at that point, and then came up with a deserved square series. So this one's now going to go all the way, and we are nowhere near the end just yet, because this is going to be another long and grindy one. Very similar matchup with Warma trying to create sticky, annoying boards against a very, very robust control deck with the Control Priest from Jarla.
But there is an interesting thing, right, and it's something I do want to ask you about, is we've had Priest high up on the radar for a long time now, right? I think that's fair to say. And I guess this is the most recent addition that Jarla's bringing, which is double Onyx Mage Scribe, double Flesh Giant in his lineup for this Priest. And with that, comes goes hand in hand Devouring Plague, and it does reduce down some of the I guess more control-y tools, I'll say. And where do you land on Priest? Like, is this better build against Rogue, or is this a worse build against Rogue because of these giants?
I think Devouring Plague Giant combination is really good against Rogue.
Okay.
If you look at the board combinations that can come down, right, like generally Rogue is going to be quite aggressive early on, especially if they get Octobot. They're going to push 3, 4, 5, 6 damage in the early game, assuming they're not choosing to turn that down deliberately, which is another conversation we can get into later if you want. And then suddenly you're just going to find a spot where, like, I don't know, there's a Mancrick on board and you just cast Devouring Plague, right? And all of a sudden you've just gained 4 health, you've killed a minion, and you've got this giant 8/8 in your hand that's become heavily discounted. Because each instance of Devouring Plague does discount Flesh Giant by 1. So I think, in particular, and that's just a generic board, you think instead of, like, a field contact with a Divine Shield on it and then another 2 health minion, right? That's another very common board state that you see against Rogue, and it's a perfect 4 health breakpoint for Devouring Plague to come down. Same deal. So yeah, I think overall, the Devouring Plague Giant package is very, very good against Rogue. Maybe Mage Scribes are a little bit slow in the Rogue matchup, but still, if you are able to stabilize, they're a fantastic tool just for being irritating in the mid game. But I like this build of the build of the deck against Rogue in particular.
Okay. Very robust answer there, Sal. I like it. Good job.
Thanks, bud. I do try.
What is Elune's will?
Jarla can only really be considering Renew here to just dig for something a bit proactive to play, but...
You sure about that?
So... Oh, come on.
You don't want to go Mind Render, Raven, into that? No?
Inclined just for the fun of it.
Yeah. I think Mind Render was legal. It would have been weird, but
I guess it with Renew and Smite
It's quiet.
in hand. I don't know. I don't like.
yeah, I'm not actually suggesting it as a serious play. I'm more like raising it as a thing that, like, you can Elucia in the early game in this spot, because it more so happens when they've already gone Octobot and they have those kind of cards in hand still.
Now,
Potentially dump quite a lot. And like I said, if you then hit Shadow Step at the end, then good things happen at the end of that turn as well.
yeah, I think now we can talk.
Sure.
Since there's for a fact there's a 1 mana field contact in hand.
Mm-hmm.
And what's the best they can do? Just Xyrella?
Yep.
Realistically?
I mean, like you said, they can Smite Renew, which is pretty good, but your hand kind of sucks right now.
Well, that's it. If they Smite and Renew, well, you get to keep Xyrella against Rogue, okay.
Yep.
If they Xyrella, well, you have Smite and Renew, and you just deleted it, and the field contact they have to kill. Like, this actually looks like it lines up pretty nicely, and Jarla teasing us with the hover. There we go. Mind Render Elucia hits the board, and Warma unhappy.
Do his eyes light up at the Shadow Step? It appears they do. I think that was the Jarla version of eyes lighting up at the Shadow Step.
A half-raised eyebrow.
Indeed, yeah. Problem being is the mana concerns, right? Because he just doesn't really have the ability to do anything with it. He'd have to leave the field contact in hand.
And no thank you. Get that field contact out.
And like I said, the idea being you can just replay Elucia, so you get to keep your own hand for the turn, and your opponent doesn't get to dump any of your cards. But I don't think Jarla actually cares about that, right? Like, how many of these cards in hand is Jarla actually attached to at this point?
Also, what a perfect draw, right?
Unplayable?
Yeah, there's literally just not a draw.
There's not even a way to, like, play a minion, Holy Smite it, play the Raised Dead, just to use the Raised Dead.
It's just bad.
Simply bad.
Wait a minute, don't give him a Shadow Step.
I mean, you could. I don't know
What
why
do you even?
would.
I guess it's Nitro Boost, right?
Yeah, it's a playable card. Like Nitro Boost Poison is the what? What am I saying? Learn how to say words. Nitro Boost Poison is the one poison that you can use when you don't have a because you can just point it at a minion, but it's still terrible.
I'm being really, I'm being really silly. You just take backstab and use it, right? Makes way more sense.
But all in all, I think a very successful exchange for Jarla there on the Mind Render.
And also now,
Yes. I was avoiding this point on purpose, but I know exactly what you're going to say.
Zyrella's a good curve play.
Ah, yeah, very good.
No, of course, field contact being in the raised dead pool.
Well, actually, okay, that's not what I thought you were going to say.
That's what I was going to say.
I thought you were going to say Lucia is in the raised dead.
Oh, I mean, that would also be true.
Yes.
I was just trying to work out if field contact's good in Priest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think so. There's like Scorpid Wand Maker, right? Like those are kind of the tools. Okay.
Well, yeah, I was more meaning like, is that good enough in Priest? You know what I mean? Like, okay, it's just a 3/2 that draws a card when you play this other thing with it. Like, okay. He's just playing Tenwu?
Because now you can go, Foxy Fraud.
Oh, okay, he's dumping that.
Shadow Step. Yeah, you can just play everything now. Yeah, Warma giving the round of applause. Yeah, I love this. Beautiful. Took Deep Freeze just for the least effective card for the longest amount of time. Love to see it. Shadow Step's the card that does nothing. Obviously, your Hearthstone instincts tell you to Shadow Step the Wand Thief there, but that is a bad thing to do when you're playing with your opponent's hand. So Shadow Step the Foxy Fraud instead. Nicely done.
I'll tell you right now, I'm not the biggest fan of Lucia, but this is one of the better Lucias I've ever seen, honestly, in terms of actually skillfully playing the card and not being like, hope it's got Il'gynoth. Where does he want to go with this turn?
I'd love it if he just found a way to make the giants
playable,
play that turn. Obviously, giant counters are an aura. They're independently tracked. So you see now they cost 5 in Warma's hand. They're going to pass back to Jarla, and they cost a different amount because those counters are being tracked independently. So Warma actually has done more priest things in terms of changing his own health than Jarla has. Oh, let's go! You always take the raised dead for Lucia number 3.
Again.
What are you doing?
Just to stop him playing Jandis next turn.
Okay. That's complete nonsense because Jarla knows how garbage Warma's hand is because he's made it that way at this point, right? So, seems fine.
Oh,
so if you're
get a new one.
Expecting the Jandis on the following turn, you just pick up the Soul Mirror instead.
Yeah.
Deal with it, right? Makes sense.
Terrible.
What a time to roll an Earth Elemental. There's just a poisonous minion on board. Raven, if you want, you have my permission. You're allowed to talk about it this turn. This is legitimate. You may.
It's the best card I've ever seen.
Okay.
Warma. Thinking about the mind games.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. You have permission to talk about, right?
Yeah.
Because that's actually vaguely legitimate.
No, I thought you just meant the fact that I'm always just going to say Earth Elemental sucks now.
Right, but it's semi-legitimate, right? Because you expect the poisonous minion to go into the 7/8, so you can just put the illusion on that and essentially just bank an entire 5/5 at that point. But it's.
But what you don't expect is the old Soul Mirror. Now you can bump the 2 and keep. Wait. Oh, okay. It doesn't matter. Hey, looks like Warma's gonna have to go fishing. But literally anything that means he doesn't have to tank 7, I guess.
Okay. Hello. deeply illegal secret passage. Struggle to think of literally any better cards that could have come out there. Foxy, Swindle, Prize Plunderer, Tank the 7. Nice big juicy board. Love to see it. Tons of cards in the hand now.
It's all turned into play-by-play Hearthstone caster.
And suddenly, a game of Hearthstone appeared.
Yep. Sethic into Holy Smite is a reasonable start here. Of course, Blade Master clears more of the board off, but could be so much better in the future.
I'd almost say that just like Flesh Giant Holy Smite is a pretty good turn here as well. If it weren't for the fact that Jarla knows he gave him a deep freeze multiple turns ago, which would just be the perfect on-curve answer to that situation.
I wonder.
I guess, though, like, what's your answer to deep freeze next turn anyway, is the question?
You don't really have one.
Right, so I just mean, like,
enough.
you could play the Giant with the idea to, like, Hysteria at least one of them and hope for the best, right?
Oh, I see. Like, they just deep freeze you in the face anyway, even if you play no minions. How do you deal with that? Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, the other way, I guess, is to Sethic into X with Holy Smite to set up a Samuro again, but that's just another level of risk, isn't it? Okay.
I love this.
Yeah,
it's genius. Why didn't I think of this? Hang on.
This is just when our powers combine, and then
this
times
is
by
just
10.
good. Yeah, he's made the one play that just Warma can't realistically play deep freeze this turn, right? Like I think that's the only play he had available in his entire hand that did that.
Oh, it's just pretty good at this game. I've said it for a while.
Yeah, smart boy.
I wonder.
I'm looking for a few good mercenaries.
Again, guess he's taking one hit? Oh no. Whoa! Warma.
The big boy Raven.
Do you like to entertain
The
us,
large lad.
don't you? Yeah.
The giant gentleman. No, I've run out. Anymore.
Humongous hunk of clay. What? That's one?
I mean, thank you, Raven. That's very complimentary, but we should get back to casting Hearthstone.
Don't make me laugh. Is Sarah going to come in?
Sarah here, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Time may pass.
Unless he wants to initiation to get the Kazakas in the pool for a later raised dead to maybe get it. No, already too deep.
Jarla just going to give up a card here. Nightmare is the only dumpable thing here, and I think it's awkward either way. Puts it on his own Ysera. That's obviously a giant minion he's giving up for no value. And honestly, this does just become a burst plan from this point for Warma. So giving him 4 extra damage by putting it on his minion is actually very relevant as well.
That's an upgrade. Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, Warma just
Indeed. Oh. Savage burn, but oh well.
felt the damage of that burn.
I did, yeah. Yeah, dear stream of these roleplay as the hero and take damage whenever the hero takes damage. Yeah.
Yeah, Warma just setting up to get as much out of each card as possible for now, right? And just edge towards that finishing plan.
That's exactly right, yeah. And I think he's set this up. He's just trying to engineer a situation where the problem card that he knows about, the Deep Freeze, comes down in a spot where he's comfortable dealing with it, which he absolutely is here, right, with the Blade Master Apotheosis combination if he wants to go for that. But again, this is prime Jarla we're talking about here, so he might just choose to greed this for much, much longer.
It's also from Warma, a pretty good setup against Ysera Awakens, right? Like the Divine Shield on the Kazakus, the 6 health on the Water Elementals. It's actually, you can really see that he is just set up to end this game within the next turn or so. Of course, we have there the connection issues on Warma's side. The game is frozen, as you guys saw, but just to remind you. But yeah, I think, I don't know, I've actually, outside, I guess, of the Bulwarks that's gone on, I actually do really enjoyed this series. Just because of how
the absolute bulwarks that have gone on through this series. Yeah,
it's true. It's been pretty close so
with
far.
that weapon. You have to be very careful when you're British with the name of that weapon. It gets very dangerous very quickly.
No comment. I've already said too much. We are diving back in, but I think that both players are doing a really good job of like just forcing the other person to like have to do a weird turn to stay on top.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, let's dive back in. Ysera Awakens and
like,
Samuro.
Yeah, it's interesting. So there was 2 ways of doing this, right? You could go Samuro, Apo, and the Nightmare, and then just slam into the Divine Shield minion, and that would still fall clear at that point, but you don't preserve your minion. Or you use the Awakens instead, and then you preserve your minion, but you don't have an Awakens at that point, which I think is an extremely premium card in the matchup, right? Kills just about every minion that Warma can possibly play. Tough choice for me.
It is. I think I'm with Jarla on this, and it's like, easy to stick with the good player. But
yes,
he keeps a 3/6 lifesteal on board when he has Flesh Giants in hand. I think that's where I land on this.
That is very fair indeed. Yeah. Mirror Entity, okay. You know your opponent has Laughing Sister in hand, but generally I think Mirror Entity, especially when you get in the Mage Scribe list, it does pay off quite often.
Yeah.
You've seen a lot of the early stuff, like you've seen Wand Makers and Sethic and the Raised Dead and all that stuff kind of past that point of the game now. So at this point, Jarla does just want to be slamming huge threats, so Mirror Entity does make some sense. Just that minor concern that you know there's a Laughing Sister in.
And he's definitely seen it in Lucia.
No one crosses the
Many times, yes. Apo? Yeah. This is kind of what I was talking about, right? It's just, this board looks great to Ysera Awakens. I'm pretty sure the next board that comes down will look pretty great to Ysera Awakens. And the one after that, and basically all of them apart from the Superior Golem board. Is a pretty solid draw here, though.
Yeah, I'm desperately.
Any way
to
get super cheeky with the Octo?
Yeah, that's what I'm just staring. He can steal it, right? Because he could just at worst trade and then initiation. But it's how he procs it is the problem. So he'd need like trade, Sethic, initiation, smite or something.
Discover a Holy Smite, off the very first Sethic spell. Yeah.
Easy.
Still do it though, right? Like with the Nightmare, yeah, sure.
He doesn't have to trade anymore.
Funny.
No Dream of the Way, okay.
Wow, okay. Was not expecting to see that.
Kill the Plunderer. I was actually a tiny bit surprised, and I thought he would have ended on Giant and not Initiation on a 2/3.
I'm just very fixated here, especially since he's shipping the Octobot back to hand. I think Jarla is very fixated on just staying at 30 at this point, right? Because the combo potential against a hand that gets Octobotted twice is pretty enormous. So just fixated on little points of healing, making sure he kills every single individual minion, making sure no chip damage can come through, all that good stuff. Did pick up a Desperate Prayer towards the end of the turn, which might have changed things a little bit, but might have not had time to react to it.
Well, looking at this, is this just Yeah, raised it to test and then just Psyche split the Ysera.
Looks pretty good. And I think having seen so many of the tools now being used from Warma, Jarla will feel a lot more secure in terms of not necessarily having to overreact and just clear absolutely everything on the board, can just make huge threats of his own.
You don't pick the ones, see? You don't
Nice.
pick the ones.
Dump the
see?
2/2 into the entity. No, there are still options here. Even like Sethic Smite. Well, it wouldn't allow him to heal. I guess holding on to that's better for next turn when he's not neophyted. Neophyted? No, is that like glowed?
I don't think it's quite that ridiculous. No. I believe the past tense of neophyte is the Matrix.
Neofort?
Neofort Agent Smith, yeah, exactly.
See? This makes sense.
It's actually quite a good joke. Genuinely made you laugh. I'm so pleased with myself.
Oh. Golem feels a bit silly, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Oh, imagine paying 10 mana for that. Or 9, I guess.
I know. It might honestly be the scoop at this
It's like
point
just
for
the
Warma.
ultimate
He's
arena
gonna hang
minion,
in
isn't
there.
it?
Pretty much.
10 mana, 10 Divine Shield. Don't kill it.
I'm not sure I'd even play that in arena, to be honest. It ended up being utter trash in the end, and now Jarla just powering ahead all the way back up to 30. Double Flesh Giant coming down with the Desperate Prayer, being able to pick up that extra healing, and I think Warma has already committed far too many of his sources of damage to be able to put anything together from this point.
I mean, there's just no cards left. Wow. Incredible. And honestly, like I was mentioning before when we were in that little break, I think this series was actually really sick. Like, there was, of course, the second Bulwark, but outside of that, I think it was a really good series, and it showed off, like, LHS very well, and why it's very difficult as well. Like, you know, we get enough things wrong, but there's a lot for these players to think about when they're trying to build these lineups to do well and work out how to play them. What do you queue first? You know, like, what do you ban even? Because we had discussions about that even today when the majority of players have banned the same thing. I will say, though, for this game specifically, for me, the Elucia play was just impressive. It paid off a lot, of course, but I think there are a lot of players that just wouldn't have Elucia'd at that point.
Yeah, and I'm kind of glad I threw it out there. You know, obviously it was kind of a joke on the turn that I threw it out, but I did it to make the point that early Elucia against Rogue does a lot of work in a lot of positions. I think it's very underrated, particularly if they either play Octobot or if they hold on to Coin. And actually, Warma did neither of those things. He played Coin, and he had not Octobot.